Are some rich countries trying to monopolize vaccines? More than a year into the pandemic, 3 million lives have been lost and millions more remain at risk. And while vaccinations have been increasing in the developed world, many places are being left behind. Some countries could even wait years for their first dose.
The Economist Intelligence Unit believes that the bulk of those in advanced economies will have been vaccinated by mid-2022. But for poorer nations, widespread coverage won't happen until early 2023, if it happens at all.
In April, the World Health Organization said that of the 700 million vaccines globally administered, only 0.2% have been in low-income countries, while richer nations have accumulated a massive surplus well in advance, enough to vaccinate 2 to 3 times their populations.
Rich countries, including the U.S. and Canada, have 14% of the world's population, but control 53% of the vaccine supply.
In the U.S., vaccinations are now open to anyone, with several options available. Nearly half of all Americans have already received at least one dose. In the UK, 55% of adults have been inoculated, and over 60% in Israel. But countries like India are suffering from a record surge in deaths and infections, while vaccinations lag.
Right now, India is experiencing the world's worst coronavirus outbreak.
Well, India is reportedly running out of COVID vaccines, just as the government there was planning to boost the nationwide vaccination program.
The WHO-led initiative COVAX program was designed to share vaccines with poorer countries, but it's still struggling to gain momentum.
COVAX may be slow because wealthy nations will be first to receive what's available. The developing world also has the additional complication of poor infrastructure. COVAX has said that 1.8 billion doses will be supplied to 92 poorer countries, but that only covers 27% of the population in those countries.
In hopes of changing that, more than 100 countries, led by India and South Africa, have supported a temporary waiver of a World Trade Organization agreement for intellectual property rights on COVID-19 vaccines. A waiver would give pharmaceutical companies around the world access to the information and know-how needed to make their own vaccines. That could increase global supplies and access to the life-saving shots.
The purpose of this waiver is to make sure that countries everywhere can increase production and generate enough supply to meet the demand that is increasing so rapidly.
But the proposal has been blocked by the UK, Japan, and some EU countries. And pharmaceutical companies have strongly opposed sharing their intellectual property rights. Vaccine manufacturers say waiving patents will not solve the global pandemic. Instead, it will stifle innovation, and without the money that patents bring in, it could discourage investors.
It's not easy. It hasn't been easy in the rich world, and diverting resources to teaching people to do that de novo means that you'd have to take things that are in the supply chain at the moment and move them over to untested facilities with new people doing it, which I think would both slow down the production of vaccines.
But in a sharp reversal of previous US policy, President Biden threw his support behind the World Trade Organization's COVID patent waiver. That could potentially end the developed world's vaccine monopoly. The head of the WHO called it a monumental moment in the fight against the virus. Strict patent laws have often left poorer nations on the sidelines, leaving them reliant on donations and other types of aid. And that vulnerability has been further exposed as many countries witness a devastating second and third wave. But what if they were able to make their own vaccines? Wouldn't waiving patent restrictions to save lives be the right thing to do?